This is Scriptum. Honestly, at the moment, I think I can safely say this is my favourite World War II game that exists anywhere, and it's recently undergone a huge update that not only has completely overhauled how the game works in terms of graphics and visuals and optimization, but it's now introducing a whole new wave of content that's coming very soon, with the French Resistance and French Army DLC, with a whole plethora of weapons, armies, tanks, and equipment and everything in between. Now, due to this huge update, I honestly started playing the game a lot more, and I can safely tell you here and now in 2019, going into 2020, this is the best World War II game. Forget about your Hell Let Looses, forget about everything else on the side, forget about Battlefield 5. For me, I think this is the perfect game for World War II. For those of you who are a little bit more savvy, you'll probably know that Scriptum has been out for a little while now, actually about over a year I'd say, but it's actually been undergoing a huge process to become its own fully fledged World War II game. But for those of you who aren't aware, Scriptum is a game that was made by two sets of modding developers who took the original Squad engine. So for those of you who are familiar with Squad, the modern military shooter, they took that and they said to the publishers who made the game, Offworld Industries, they said, hey, look, we want to make a World War II version of this, and it's now published by the same people who published Squad. It uses the same engine and some of the same Unreal effects, but it's managed by a completely separate development team. And this means that this game has some features that are entirely different from Squad. Noticeably for me, I think graphically it looks much better than Squad. It handles incredibly well, and after the most recent update, I've got to say, wow. The audio to this game is unparalleled. I don't think I've played an audio experience anything close to what Scriptum can offer. The sound of shells flying over your head, the ricochet of bullets, it's honestly a really enthralling experience. Now, the reason I bring this to your attention is not only has this new update completely reimagined the game and made it so much better than what it previously was, but honestly, Scriptum is one of those games I want to talk about, just because of how well I think it performs in certain areas, and for reasons that I will explain, for me personally, is the best World War II shooter on the market. So what has this new update done? Well, it's completely updated the engine to Unreal 4.21, and with this there's improvement in performance and optimization. So for any of you who have played the game before and thought, my frame rate's a little bit choppy, you're actually going to see this as one of the biggest optimization improvements to date. So people on lower end systems, for now, you can actually dive into Scriptum and give it a go. It's also had a huge change in lighting, shading, textures, foliage, as well as different sounds, tank and vehicle handling improvements, improved animations for weapons, new game modes like random area assault, adding a weapon range and range revamp. It's really something that is completely crazy. The overhaul looks fantastic. You're seeing gameplay of it right here. It creates this real great sense of immersion. I think this is one of the most immersive gameplay experiences, from the ping of the M1 Grand to, the white phosphorus grenades fizzing on the ground. The way the explosions are handled and have you can actually see the shockwave from explosions. The way planes dive in and drop bombs out from the command posts. It's really incredible, the sheer capacity of what this game is capable of in terms of making you feel like there is an experience going on around you, as opposed to you just playing a game. And I think if you rewatch the opening sequence to this video, you can completely understand what I'm getting at in terms of, just how good this game is. And it features all the classics as well. You've got the 1911 pistol, the Lee Enfield, you've got the M1 Garand, the Sten, the P38, the M1A1 Thompson, the STG-44, G41, G43, you have the MG34, you have the MG42, you have the Browning. They have entire factions for the Airborne, US Division, the British, the Germans, and very recently they've announced the French faction as well, which features weapons such as the Shorchat, which is coming into the game in the not too distant future at all. I honestly feel this is one of the best times to dive into this game. Not only is this update fantastic, but now that they're bringing in these whole new streams and stems of content, and it plays really well. I think if you watch the gameplay here, you can see bullets are lethal and punchy, you have to be accurate. Nobody really has an unfair advantage because this is a true-to-life World War II game, in the sense that only snipers have scopes. You can see a little bit of gameplay from that today, but for the most part you'll have to play with iron sights, and it makes it really great because it truly does become a game of skill. You have to, understand how much your bullets are going to travel, you're going to have to understand ranging, and I think once you get the hang of it, like I kind of did sort of later on after a few hours, because I hadn't played the game for a while, you can really become this sort of lethal element on the field. I think I had games last night where I dropped about 40 people and had like 4 deaths, and we completely just leveled the playing field. The shining star for Postscriptum for me is the offensive mode. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Squad can sometimes feel a little bit slow in pacing. I think it's safe to say that game takes a while to build into the action, whereas I think you can see in the gameplay here, the polar opposite is true for Postscriptum. Now, there will still be some preparation stages where you sort of have to get online and get in the right areas and set up a base, and you'll have squad leaders and various people taking charge of making that happen. But for the most part, the crazy thing about Postscriptum, especially on the offensive mode, is that you have this really great breakthrough Battlefield 5 style experience, or invasion type experience if you're used to playing Squad. And the pacing for it is fantastic. You know, they have these really great staging areas, be it at the bridge, on Operation Market Garden, the urban towns, the churches. They use all of these objectives and they're fantastically laid out, and it creates these great combat engagement situations where you've got people dying in the streets, you've got, you know, machine guns cutting down folks, you've got people up on the snipers. It's unparalleled in my opinion. I think it does a fantastic job of urban combat. I think it does an even more fantastic job of combat when you're out in the open. And I think it does really well at pacing the game. You know, there was never a dull moment. You know, maybe the start of the game when you're just spawning in, getting in a truck and driving to the front line, which takes about 2 or 3 minutes. But after then, it's just constantly on edge and permanent action. You know, and the game features some really fantastic features as well. You know, you have such a great team play element of squads with medics. For those of you who have played Squad before, of course, it's very much the same. You have machine gunners, medics, light anti-tank, grenadiers, you've got a sniper, and you've got riflemen per squad. You also have your squad leader, and with your squad leader who can mark things, and then above that, you have the command role, which is capable of calling in things like devastating artillery strikes, gun runs, even just some of the crazy sirens from the German planes that come down to drop bombs. It's really an experience. I think this is something that everybody needs to at least try. You know, just buy the game, and if after 2 hours you aren't feeling it, refund it, but genuinely try this game. In the early life cycle of Postscriptum, I think lots of people called it a mod for Squad, and, you know, didn't really give it an opportunity because they felt like it was a paid-for mod. But I think just over and over again, they've proven those people wrong. And they keep showing this just incredible level of development with these brand new content drops and these huge updates. And they're really making a World War II shooter which is deserving of its own name. The UI elements, for example, the way the game handles, the game's soundtrack, everything works fantastically. And I think you'll fall in love with it the second you fire your first shot from a Lee Enfield, a Kar 98 or an M1 Garand. Just feeling the sound of the shot and hearing it and then seeing the impact it makes is one of the most satisfying experiences I've seen in a while. And because the vast majority of players are using iron sights that are semi-auto or bolt-action rifles, you've got a really great balancing setup here in the sense that you have machine gunners and snipers and light anti-tanks, which tend to be a little bit more threatening on the field, and you know that you have to deal with those people. But for the most part, everybody's playing with similar to same weapons, you know, a Kar 98 versus a Lee Enfield, for example. And that's the kind of thing that really creates a great cohesive environment for good gameplay experiences. And I think you can see a lot of it here. You know, I fire a shot, maybe I miss, the guy fires a shot back, he misses, we're both a little bit suppressed, and then we both try and land the shots, and you never really feel like you're being cheated out of anything in this game, except for maybe when you get nailed with an artillery strike, but even then, you know, that kind of stuff just happens. I think it's probably the most fun I've had in a large-scale game, you know. Things like Project Reality and things like Squad sometimes have the issue of pacing not quite being there. You know, sometimes you feel like you're out of the action for too long, and that's fine, that works for some people. I personally still love Squad for how it plays, but this certainly has a lot more action to it in the offensive and random area assault modes, and I think that's something that I really enjoy about Postscriptum. I just feel like I'm constantly in the mesh and constantly on, you know, the verge of this hyper tense battle. So yeah, that's about it from this video today. I really just wanted to show you this game. It's very rare for me to talk about a game with such excitement. I typically, thanks to Battlefield recently, I've been quite a critical one. But for the most part, for me personally, I find it to be such a refreshing experience to play something that is really enjoyable. I think most people can just pick up and play. It creates great community moments because you've got everybody on comms, everybody's using the mic, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic at just everything it does, from sound design to gun control to how everything works. I highly recommend everybody plays this game. Anywho folks, it's been me, the Tactical Brit. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you soon with some more Postscriptum content.